Thank you very much, Angela, and good morning to everybody at the symposium. Thank you very much for having me appear today. I'm appearing from London, so sorry I can't be there in person to speak. But Angela had contacted me because she told me about this fantastic initiative that is going on today, and I think it's so important to speak openly about the challenges that people face within the law, especially for Black people. Issues to do with hair, issues to do with culture. These are all things that we as Black people continue to face as challenges when we go into the law. Now, I've been a lawyer for 10 years. I've been qualified for 10 years this year. I've been practicing in the area of law for around 11 and a half years. So I was a paralegal before I qualified in 2012. I specialize in the field of mental health and mental capacity law. And what that means is I represent people who have been detained against their own will under the Mental Health Act here in the UK. And the purpose is that people have said that they are suffering from a mental disorder and that they need to be detained in the interest of their own health, safety, or protection of other people. So my role is to come in and to advocate to see how can I try and get them out of hospital, back into the community, and also be able to be supported whilst they're in the community to avoid coming back into the hospital situation. Now, my journey into law wasn't a straightforward one. I graduated with a lower second class honors in law back in 2006. I did my law school in 2006, 2007. And I struggled to get into the law itself, partly because of my grades, but partly I think because, unfortunately here in the UK, in England and Wales, which is the jurisdiction that I practice in, institutional racism is a thing. Now, I have a lot of experience doing a lot of things outside of the law. So, in those years between when I was looking to practice and then practicing, I was actually working in the field of youth participation. And within that, I was working in kind of youth politics and being able to work with young people who've been elected to represent other young people in their local areas in the UK, in London and beyond. And the skill set that I've picked up allowed me, I believe, to enter the law in 2010 and be able to offer something completely different because I was somebody who came in who has a very different skill set. I had dealings with politicians, I'd worked with prime ministers, I'd worked with ministers, I've worked with various different politicians. So I knew how to handle people in a very different way compared to a lot of people who had graduated and gone straight into law school and who'd qualified, and gone straight into practicing. And one of the big challenges that I face, I mean, you can't see it, or you may be able to tell, I'm not sure. It's sat down at the moment, but I'm a big Black guy, and there's a whole issue here in the UK, especially around Black men and the perception that people have of Black men in the UK. And I'm sure, and I know for a fact that the perception that people have of Black men in the US. So people will always see me as being a threat. People will see me as, oh my God, has this guy come to rob me? When I turn up to court, is this guy the defendant? All of these kind of things, which is absolutely ridiculous. Even though, when I turn up to court, I'd like to pride myself on the fact that I'm a pretty well sharp dressed man. I like to think that I look good when I'm ready to go into battle in the law in the courtroom. And this was something that was a challenge for me when I initially entered the law because all of a sudden I'm finding that I'm having to code switch quite a lot. And I'm sure most of you know what code switching is, but for those who aren't aware, is basically you're having to be someone that you don't naturally subscribe to, but you're doing it in order to be able to be accepted by the people that you're meant to be around. Now, here in the UK, statistically, we have 24% of lawyers that are qualified are from a Black or ethnic minority background. So I'm going into an institution which is predominantly white, who people are looking at you like, well, you shouldn't really be here, because I grew up in a very deprived area of London, and people look at you in a particular way. So I would say probably for the first 3, 4 years of my legal career, I was having to code switch. So I could quite easily go from listening to Drake in my car or Jay-Z on my way to work, and then suddenly kind of having to go very prim, proper, and try and assimilate essentially to be able to be accepted. And this takes a huge toll on your mental health, because you're constantly having to code switch, you're constantly having to think about what you're having to say, and you're constantly afraid that if you were to slip into your natural self, that that's going to be a problem. What I found over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, and I think this probably comes with experience and age, and being a father, I don't care anymore. I'm very much like, you know what? You're going to accept me for who I am. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what I do. I'm a damn good lawyer. I'm very good at what I do. So you cannot take away from the fact that, you know, because of that, my blackness is going to come through. So I'm not celebrating, being black in the month of October because it's Black History Month. I'm black 365 days in a year. I've been black since 1985 when I was born. I can't escape the fact that I am black. So you're going to learn to in, embrace my culture. You're going to learn to understand who I am. If I want to eat jollof rice at work, I'm going to bring jollof rice to work. Do you know what I mean? Because that's my food. I'm not going to start to assimilate just because other people want me to do that. But I think it's very important when you are in the workplace to kind of try and ensure that you are trying to be your most authentic self as possible. And if you're finding that you're in a situation where people are trying to push back on that quite a lot, people are not embracing that, then you have to think about whether that is the right environment for you to be working in the first place. Because ultimately, you want to be in a position and in a place where you are comfortable with being who you are comfortable with being your true, authentic self, and by being your true authentic self, it means that you can be the damn best lawyer that you can possibly be. And that is what it's about. So I celebrate each and every one of you that are here today. I celebrate all of those who've paved the way for people like me to come through. I've just heard previous speaker who's been practicing law for 40 years. I've only been practicing for 10, but it's women like yourself and men as well who've paved the way for us to be able to practice law both here in the UK and in the States and all over the world. And I see myself as essentially a gatekeeper in the sense of I will continue to speak my truth. I will continue to be my authentic self. And by doing that, I'm helping to break down the barriers and break down the views that people have and the perceptions that people have of a person that's a black man or a black woman that's a lawyer. And hopefully, the next generation, which is you guys who are coming through, do not have to go through the same challenges and the same issues that we've had to face going through in the law. And I think it's important that we continue to have these conversations. We continue to celebrate our blackness. I love the fact that I'm seeing people with locks, with braids, with afros in the workplace. It's great. I'm married to a black woman, and I remember when she made the choice 4 years ago to, well, no, longer than that, to say, actually, I want to embrace my natural hair. And I was like, yeah, you go for it, babe. You do that because people need to see that's who you are. That is your true, authentic self. So never let anyone try and take that away from you. And I just want to say thank you very much for having me, and good luck to all of you in your journeys in becoming lawyers. So thank you.